He gets a little scanner from Amazon, and he goes to thrift stores, and he connects it to a specific app, and he goes and starts to scan books really, really quickly. Now, this is a really cool one, and this is one I never thought you could make this much money doing something like this, because the product, when you look at it, doesn't seem like people would pay this much for it, but they do, and this is a really interesting thing. What they do is they collect clients, and they connect them with reliable cleaning services. A lot of really cool options here, I think, that you can do, but managing that growth, looking through how you can actually implement this and grow this is gonna be a really cool process. Now, today, we're going to be diving into 7 side hustles that can turn into a full-time business. And the first time around that we did this was our most popular episode thus far this year. You guys absolutely loved the first side hustle episode. And the reason why we do these episodes is I don't believe that side hustle should be things like DoorDash or driving for Uber or doing TaskRabbit. Instead, I want you to build out a side hustle that can earn you some additional income that has the opportunity to turn into a full-time business. And so when we talk about some of these episodes, this is a fantastic way for you to focus time on increasing your income so that you can take that extra income and put it towards wealth-building activities and or so you could spend your days how you want. And the beautiful thing about these are real businesses that we're going to be talking about today that you can do part-time first and start to build up your clientele and eventually have the possibility of going full-time. Or you can keep it part-time and keep your 9 to 5 or whatever else you do and just have a little business portfolio that you are building up. And so that is why I love talking through this process. We'll have a bunch more of these episodes coming up in the near future, so make sure you're following or subscribe if you are not already, because this is one of my favorite things to talk about is starting up some of these businesses. So if that's something you're into, if you're looking to make more money, let's get into it. All right, I'm pumped today. These are some of my favorite episodes to do. So the first one is going to be something that's top of mind for me. And if you look around, if you're watching on YouTube, if you look around me here, I am in my brand new podcast studio, and we have different sets set up all over this place where we have a podcast studio now, a full-on podcast studio. And I think that there's actually a business opportunity to start and develop your own podcast studio. Now, these are in no particular order, but this is just the first one because it's top of mind for me, and I'm thinking through, should we actually do this? So if you go on YouTube, there's another channel called The Podcast Studio on YouTube, and there is a guy on there who started a podcast studio that is now making, at first it started making like $30,000 a year, then he was at like $50,000 or $70,000 a year, and now he's at over $100,000 per year by just renting out this podcast studio and providing services to people who want to start a podcast, or maybe they have a YouTube channel and they don't want to go out and have all this equipment in their house and have it all set up. Instead, they just want somebody to do it all for them. And so I think this is a really cool and interesting idea for people who either know about this stuff, they are interested in doing some of this stuff, and or just someone who is looking for a decently low-cost business to set up. So first, you got to choose the right space, obviously. So this has to have physical space in order for you to be able to rent this out. And so if you can find a studio space that actually works for this business model, it could be very, very beneficial. And the investments that you're going to have to make are obviously audio equipment, backgrounds, things like that. And this stuff can get expensive. And so kind of making sure that you figure out what those costs are going to be up front first is going to be super important. Like the mic I'm talking in right now, in addition to the rest of the setup that it goes into, is like $1,000 mic. And then I have a switchboard over here. I have other stuff going on over here and a bunch of other equipment that could cost you thousands of dollars. And so if you do not have that budgeted up front, it's really important to make sure you have that, because each mic is going to be something that you're going to need. Now, you can go a cheaper version than this. This is the top of the line version of mic that you can get. This is a Shure SM7B if anybody's curious, but you can get really good sound and really good audio out of cheaper mics as well. And so soundproofing is another thing. You've seen those soundproof panels on walls. You can DIY these for cheaper. You can buy expensive ones. Behind the cameras right here, we have expensive soundproofing stuff where my voice is going. And so there's a lot of things set up in that way, but you don't have to do that. There are cheaper ways to do it and still make it look good. And in addition, you probably need cameras, at least a 3-camera setup when it comes to having a podcast studio where you're charging. And so you can have that available there. making sure you have mixing consoles and recording software. All that different stuff is going to be really, really important. Now, I think there are some core offerings that you can have here, because if you're trying to scale a business to 6 figures like this one, you can do this part-time. You can have swipe cards for your clients so that you don't have to be there all the time just setting up the equipment, especially if you give them, a demonstration on how to set up the equipment and get it rolling. Maybe they don't even want somebody in there. Maybe they'd feel more comfortable if they were recording solo or with their co-hosts or whoever else is in the building. And so maybe it's better off for you to set that up. Now, that's one way you could set it up. You could also get a part-time employee to kind of help you come in here if you're at work or something else along those lines that could help you through this. So some core offerings you could offer is recording sessions is number one. Having recording sessions set up is going to be something that obviously is the most important thing. You could do hourly recording sessions, and you could do some other things like, that include setup, they can include sound check, they can include basic assistance, all that kind of stuff. I, for example, would rather you, though, offer those recording sessions in either a monthly subscription or packages so that you can have some more predictable revenue coming in within that business. Secondly, is editing and post-production. So you don't have to know how to edit podcasts to do this. What you would do is outsource this. So you could go somewhere like Upwork.com, find audio editors that are legit, and then you can go in and have editing and post-production done, and then you take a percentage of profit on top of that. So that is something that you can definitely do. Or you can find real sound engineers online. Like, we are edited by Pristine Podcast. Shout out to them. And you can, create some sort of deal with them to possibly have this set up. And in addition, you can also do things like setting up remote recordings where you don't even need the specific location. You can go set up remote recordings in someone's office, so you can do mobile stuff with this as well, which I don't think a lot of people actually do right now. And it's very annoying to have to move equipment all over the place for people. And so if you know how to do it quickly and you know how to set up where you can get some good audio, I think that's great. Additional services, though, is you could do things like live streaming and set up live streaming productions for people. You can do podcast consultation and help people set up their podcast and get them completely ready to go so they understand how to set up, how to launch their podcasts, and put all that kind of stuff together. In addition, you could do workshops and trainings so that they understand, hey, here's a course on Podcast 101, here's 201, here's 301, where you could do live trainings you could do live trainings in your studio to help people, and they can purchase those trainings either live or they can even purchase them online if you record them with some of your equipment. And so what do you need for this? Obviously, you need a professional website and all that stuff set up. You need a social media platform to be able to do that. And then one thing I would do is you could start to network with local businesses and partnerships, and even set up some partnerships where maybe you give a couple local businesses some cheaper, hourly rates where they can come in, get you established, get you started, and have a referral program where if they refer X amount of people, then they can get a free recording, for every 2 people they refer or something like that. Now, the pricing strategy is I would have hourly rates for some of this stuff, but I would also try to make those hourly rates significantly higher, and it would almost be idiotic to not go for the monthly subscription model that you have in place. So you can have some tiered pricing and have a subscription package or an all-inclusive package that allows them to get audio, video, all the editing done. Everything is done, and you'll even upload it to their podcast feed if they want to, and you can have these all-inclusive packages. And so the way that you would set that up is I would likely either have an employee on hand or you can also have a virtual assistant that helps you upload these podcasts, get the files moved around, and have all that set up there. Now, one thing you definitely want to do is on your website, you should have a really smooth onboarding process. You should have a client portal. All this stuff helps them just, focus on attention to detail and make sure that you are really giving them exceptional service. Now, one thing you could do is do some community building stuff as well, where you can, host local networking events for local podcasters or YouTubers that could come by your studio, and you can have these networking events where they can, speak to each other, see if they want to do interviews, do promo swaps, all kinds of things that you can set up like that. And then you can get social proof as well from these folks to try to help through all of that other stuff. So I think this is a really cool and interesting business. There's a lot of ways to scale it. And if you could do this really well, you could probably franchise this model out. A lot of these things I always think through, hey, could you franchise it? A lot of times you can, or you can expand locations. And so when it comes to that location, having a busier area, probably a metro area is going to be much better than, doing this out in the country. And so this could be something where you could really think through this process, and it's a low cost to entry. if you can get the equipment down. So the equipment is the big piece, but the rental of these spaces is not that crazy, especially because you only need, 500 to 700 square feet to have 3 sets. And so if you can have 3 sets set up where people can have some variability, where people can have some variety, then you can really make, I think, some interesting feedback and some progress on there. And again, it could be part-time. They could have swipe cards. They could have codes to get into the studio. And then you just have cameras in there. So if anything ever happened, you'd be available to be able to see what was going on there. So number 1 is a podcast studio. I am throwing ideas like crazy at you. I know, I understand. But at the same time, I have a ton of ideas for each of these, and I'm trying to make sure I don't go crazy granular. If you want me to go granular on the next one, let me know. This is like an idea bank. I'm trying to just kind of spit some of the ideas I have at you for each one of these, and then you can run with it if you want to, and just let me know if any of these are inspiring you and if you actually go and take action on some of this stuff. Let's get into number 2. So number 2 is one that there is a lot of variation to this. I'm going to use a specific example on this one, but there's a lot of different things that you can do with this, and I will come up with more of these ideas in the future. But number 2 is a golf trip planner. So every single year, my brother-in-law and a bunch of his friends, he's from South Florida, I'm from Tampa, a bunch of his friends from South Florida, they all go on this annual golf trip. And his brother-in-law on the other side of the family sets up this golf trip every single year, and it is absolutely amazing. You play a bunch of rounds of golf. We play 1 on Thursday, we play 2 on Friday, we play 2 on Saturday, and then Sunday everybody's so tired that usually we can't play another round. But it's some of the most fun times we ever have. In fact, it's so fun that I'm starting to put one together for my Tampa friends. But as you can imagine, 12 different guys or girls, whatever you have going on a trip, coordinating these folks all together and making sure everyone's on the same page and you can get the best pricing and finding the right courses to go to, finding the right hotels, picking the right dates is all a pretty exhausting process. And so if you could find something like a golf trip planner who can do all this for you for a certain fee or a cut, this can be really beneficial and worthwhile to a lot of people, especially since they are gung-ho about it because they're splitting the cost between a bunch of folks. And there are some great examples of this. Like if you look at Bucket List Golf Trips, which is on Instagram and TikTok, what they do is they actually promote the amazing places that you can take golf trips. And on the back end, what they have is a link where you can go work with them to be able to book your very own trip. But I think it's an amazing idea that you can also do where you don't have to have office space or anything like that. You could do this from home. You can do this part-time as inquiries come in, and then you are promoting different courses and different places on social media, showing all the different features, and on the back end, you are helping people book trips. Now, let me tell you this right now. I know people who do things like this. For example, my uncle and my grandfather own a wine store. My uncle takes people on winery tours across Europe because he has all these connections with different wineries. And when they take these trips across Europe, he has a big group that goes with him, and every time he's making tens of thousands of dollars every single trip. In fact, the last one I heard, he was making about $50,000 for 1 2-week trip. In addition, he gets to go on the trip for these, which is a double whammy, which is kind of cool. But he takes them on these trips and makes some really good money. And so when he does this, he can really make a good cut. I think you can do similar things. Now, you may not be making 50 grand every time you book a golf trip because they just don't cost that much, but you could make good money, A, from the courses giving you a kickback, and B, from the folks booking on the courses giving you a kickback. So if you can create some sort of incentive from both sides, you can make very, very good money doing this. You're basically a travel agent, but for golfers. Maybe you could be a travel agent, but for pickleball players. Maybe you could be a travel agent, but for fishermen. Maybe you could be a travel agent, but for yoga enthusiasts. Maybe you could be a travel agent, but for book clubs. I don't know what it would be, but there's so many different things that you could do in this space, and I think it's really, really cool. And so what I would obviously do is have one target market set up for this, and I would start to offer a bunch of different services, things like booking tee dimes, or just arranging accommodations, or transportation. Maybe different golf courses have exclusive waiting lists, and you can get people on that waiting list. You charge a one-time fee to get them in and get them a tee time. Maybe you can establish some partnerships with resorts and golf courses where you can get a lower rate, a significantly lower rate, so it's a win-win situation for the client and for you, where you can ensure a ton of profitability for everybody. And then your pricing strategy and your model is going to really be what matters here the most, and you really want to make some good money on some of these trips so that you can establish some of these relationships. Now, typically, these trips happen every single year. So if you can get a really good client base, you can start to have people coming in every single year. Say you got 52 clients that are happening every year. You can have one client per week that you're setting them up on these trips and showing them the accommodations that they can have available to them. You can set up things like transportation for additional fees, restaurants for additional fees, and reservations. There's a lot of things you can do here that I think is going to be really, really helpful. So having that online presence, I think social media is the most powerful way to do this. You can create a YouTube channel also that shows different courses and profiles different courses and the amenities they have and some of the cool stuff you can do. For example, Michael Jordan has a golf course that looks so incredibly cool that he just built that has a bunch of different villas where you can stay there directly. The drinks on the course are brought to you via drone. And so there's a lot of amazing different courses that you can show unique content on that could help you in your business. And I think that is the way to do it. In addition, if you can, it's a business expense to go play those courses and to film yourself. So if you can get that rolling, I think that's really cool because then you get to play courses if you're really interested in golf and doing something like that. Also, get some email. Make sure you're building up an email list for this. Get your email marketing set up correctly. I think that's very, very important because if you can find hot deals, you can send it out to your email list. Maybe they can get a group together and you can make even more money. When courses need, some tee times booked, you can have a hot deal situation set up. Also, if you can set up an app or something like that where you can get this process automated, maybe by utilizing AI, have people answer some questions and you can find them the optimal golf trip for what they are looking for. Oh man, there's some really cool stuff that you can do there as well. Personalized service and detailed planning are the two things you want to be offering for the most part. And then after your folks go on that trip, make sure you're checking in with them on the trip, seeing if they're having a good time, send them a text message, something like that. And then after the trip, do a post-round follow-up, make sure everything's looking good and they had a great time. And then you can have things like loyalty programs. So you can have stuff where maybe there's repeat customer discounts or there's referral programs. They refer other people to a golf trip through you. They get a discount next year, maybe 20% off, something like that. There's a lot of cool stuff that you could do and expand your offerings. In addition, if you can expand your team and expand this sales process, I think you can really make good money, and I'm talking millions of dollars here per year. There's a lot of different things that you can do with this business that I think is very, very cool. I am pro, some of these trips, and I think there's a lot of different ways that you can do it, and golf is one big one that I see out there a lot. So you can look at different places to go to play golf on golf trips on TikTok or Instagram. You're going to see a bunch of examples of companies doing exactly this, and if you can stand out in some way, shape, or form, I think you can make a lot of money. The next one this is one that I've always been interested in. Never done it. I did it a while ago in like a very small scale, but never actually tried to do it. And I actually thought about starting a business like this with my son because I think it's something that could teach him some pretty interesting tactics. He's only 6, but I think there's some things that he could learn from this. And it's buying and selling books from places like thrift stores. Now, I know that might sound like it's something boring and tedious, but let me explain how this works. So there's a guy, his website is Raiken Profit, Raiken Profit. And what he does is he buys and sells books from thrift stores and textbooks from thrift stores. And here's how it works. He gets a little scanner from Amazon and he goes to thrift stores and he connects it to a specific app and he goes and starts to scan books really, really quickly. And what's going to happen is with that scanner, it's going to beep when a book is within the profit margin that he wants it to be at. So he wants to make like $5 a book at least. And so if it has that profit margin, it will beep. And then he looks at his app to see what the profit margin is and if it's worth it. And then he puts it into his cart. And he does this all over the place with thrift stores in his area. He taught his mother how to do this, who's retired in her 60s, and she makes $3,000 to $5,000 per month just by doing this. He has made $1 million in revenue over the course of the last couple of years. And so I think this is a very interesting thing that you can do in your spare time, nights and weekends, and be able to turn this into a full-blown business. Now, the way that you set this up, though, is once you get the books, you set it up on an Amazon FBA account. If you don't know what Amazon FBA is, it's from Fulfillment by Amazon. This is one of my favorite things ever. This is one of the side hustles that I used to utilize where I would go out and buy chocolates, seasonal chocolates, for example, from Target. And there used to be these Lent truffles that I would buy every single year at Valentine's Day. And I would buy all of them from Target or wherever else locally. I would send it off to Amazon FBA. And what Amazon FBA does is once you send the product to them, you put it all in one box. You have to go through their process through the Amazon seller site and app. You send it off based on following the directions, and you put a specific shipping label where they ask you to send it to. You send it to Amazon FBA, and they handle everything else. They handle the customer service. They handle shipping each individual items. They obviously handle, bringing in the customers, and then you have a partnership there. So what that app does is that app will show you, hey, here's how much Amazon's going to take. Here's how much the book is going to sell for currently on Amazon. So here's your profit margin, and that's why it beeps when you are scanning those books. So it's a really quick, easy process to scan a ton of books really fast, and then you can go through and start to sell as many of those books as possible. Things like textbooks do really, really well. Things like very unique arbitrage books do really, really well. So it's very interesting how you can actually go through and find these books. Another way to do this is at library sales. You can find books at garage sales in your area. And so a lot of times you can find these interesting books. Now, some of them may sell for more on eBay. So if you're willing to package up every single book, do the customer service, and ship it, then you can also put it on eBay as well. I would most likely go more so towards the Amazon FBA route because it's minimal work on the back end. The front end is just you want to hunt and find those books. That's what your entire job is searching for those books. But I think you can make a couple of extra $1,000 by doing this. In fact, he's proven you can make tens of thousands of dollars per month if you can figure out how to do this properly and find the right connection. So what I would do is go to the thrift stores and say, hey, what days do you guys put out books? If there is a specific day, maybe they don't have one. I would go to all the local libraries and ask the same questions and get really involved with some of those folks, maybe see if you can talk to some of the people in charge and see if there are ways for you to get your hands on those books first in your area. So I always thought this was an interesting business, and I do think for most situations, this is a simple hands-off business on the back end as long as you're willing to do that front-end work and send it off to Amazon FBA, and Amazon will take care of the rest. So I've done this before. I used to take all my old books that I've already read that I know I'm not going to read again, and I'll send them off to Amazon FBA, and all of them will sell within like a month. So last time I did it, I sent about 30 or 40 books. Boom, all of them sold within a month, and you can make some money back. So usually it's less than obviously when you buy them brand new because they're used, but it's still something that can be profitable for you, and I think it's a really cool way to get started in business if you haven't done so as well. Great side hustle also for teenagers or kids because they understand, hey, scan, beep, okay, put it in the basket. Scan, if it beeps, put it in the basket. So it's a pretty simple process, which is why I was interested in getting my 6-year-old into it. So we will see if we do that. If we do that, I'll report back to you and let you know how it goes. Number 4. Now, this is a really cool one. And this is one I never thought you could make this much money doing something like this because the product, when you look at it, doesn't seem like people would pay this much for it, but they do. And this is a really interesting thing. So there is a guy called The Shelf Dude, okay? The Shelf Dude. You can look him up on Instagram and other places. And what he does is he builds garage shelves and sells them on Facebook Marketplace. Now, the garage shelves that he builds are the shelves for like those black and yellow tubs that you can get at Amazon or Home Depot. Those totes for your garage. They're like the 27-gallon tubs, okay? And like I'm looking at Lowe's and Home Depot right now. Each one has them. They're yellow and black, and they are $9.98, okay? So he makes shelves for those tubs, and these shelves are different sizes, and you put the tub into the shelf, and you can fit a bunch of different ones. He's got a bunch of different sizes here. He's got a 4x5 shelf unit that looks like it fits 20 of those things, okay? He's got one that's a 2x2. He's got one that's a 3x3, and it fits 9 of them. He's got a 3x2 that fits 6 of them. And so all of these are, a really efficient way to be able to store some of this stuff. He also, though, and here's where the key comes in for you if you are somewhat handy, but it sounds like this isn't very difficult once you get it going. If you are interested in doing something like this, he also sells the plans to these shelves. And so what he does is he makes $15,000 a month building these shelves out of wood and selling them on Facebook Marketplace. $15,000 a month. He started off by doing this, and he was making $5,000 a month when he was working a 9 to 5, and he said, well, I'm working every single hour of the day. If I go full time into this, I think I can make more money. And now he makes $15,000 per month just building workbench shelves and garage shelves so that people can hold their stuff. Man, oh man, you can make money all over the place. I think there's a lot of opportunity on Facebook Marketplace that people are not tapping into. And so this is definitely one that I think is super, super cool. And so if you're in, some of these areas, I think it is worth looking into, testing this out and seeing if it works if you're trying to make extra money. So he He says the material costs him about $200, okay? And so of that $200, he sells these for like $775. So it's a huge profit margin there, a nice little profit margin. They take him about 3 to 4 hours to build. And then once they're built, then he sells them on Facebook Marketplace. And so here's a couple things that you can do. First, you can hire an employee to build the shelves for you. You do the installs. I think that's exactly how he has it set up. You can hire an employee to build the shelves. You can also hire an employee to do the installs, and you take, you share the profits in whatever cut you can work up. That's another way you can do this. And I think that is something where if you're working full time, you have 2 employees helping you do this, you can really make a lot of money. He's in the Utah area, Salt Lake City area. So if you're outside that area, you probably have some market available to be able to do something like this. So this is another really cool one. He's on Instagram, TikTok, and some other places as well. But I think it's just amazing how much money you can make. And on Facebook Marketplace, I think there's a lot more opportunity than people realize to make some of this stuff. And so building garage shelves and selling on Marketplace is number 4. All right, number 5 is becoming a cleaning service broker. Now, I came up with this idea, and I cannot find the TikTok for the life of me, but there was a guy on TikTok talking about how he does this. And I know people who do this locally here, but I think there's a way to really set this up in the right way. So if you don't know what a cleaning service broker is, what they do is they collect clients and they connect them with reliable cleaning services. Take, for example, if you're a local cleaning guy or girl in your area who a lot of people know and they use them and they get a bunch of clients everywhere. Well, there's other folks who are in the same exact boat who may not have a ton of clients and people just don't know about them, but they do really good work. And so a cleaning service broker can be the person who takes all the phone calls and actually does all the invoicing and charges the specific amount and helps the folks who actually clean houses find more clients. And you can make a lot of money doing this, especially if you get into have a residential arm and if you have a commercial arm. Between those two things, you can really, really do well. A lot of times, people who are in the cleaning industry are not very good marketers. And so if you can do the marketing for them, you are the broker and you are basically the middle person. You make a cut in between what the consumer pays and what the cleaning person makes, then you can really have a win-win situation. A lot of people who are in the cleaning industry may charge too little when their services are pretty good. And so you can raise their prices, help them earn the same amount of money, and then you take a cut in between based on the prices that you can actually charge. And so people who do this, the first thing I would do is have a vetting process to figure out actually who's a good cleaner in the area. And you can have service agreements set up and you can have training and standards set up for them so that they know exactly how this should be done. And then you can start to develop that client base. So you can set up, referral strategies and outreach strategies where you can start to, run Facebook ads or different things like that if you have a little bit of money. Or you can do some guerrilla marketing like Facebook Marketplace where, first cleaning is $50 and then, you could do a subscription model where it's cheaper if they do a subscription. So many different ways to do this. And that's why I love this stuff. Is because you can set up really cool pricing models that I think are going to be helpful. So I have a lady who comes every 2 weeks to our house, and it is one of my money values. And so we have a cleaning lady. We used to clean the whole house, and it would take us hours every weekend. And so now we have someone who comes every 2 weeks, and they clean our house, and it is some of the best money I ever spend. And so when she comes, it is one of those things, though, that she is not very organized. And so if we had somebody who was more organized, who made sure she was on time, she comes at random times. She comes every 2 weeks, but it's like at random times all the time. Sometimes she comes with help, and so it only takes her a couple of hours. Sometimes she doesn't come with any help, and it takes her the entire day. And so this is a problem in the cleaning industry that I think a lot of people have. So if you can systematize it, make it to where it's really, really automated, I think most people are going to appreciate that. And if you can have a social media presence, and maybe on social media, you have the folks within your network who are doing the cleanings or, giving cleaning tips and doing helpful things in that area, I think there's a lot of ways that you can make good money here with content marketing. So definitely do quality assurance, loyalty programs, subscription models, all that kind of stuff I think can really help with this. But you are the middle person between cleaning services, and people are always going to need their houses cleaned. The Jetsons is not real yet. There is no robot AI cleaning staff yet. So I think in this business, you can make really good money. So the person that I saw that was doing this on TikTok was claiming they made $50,000 per month. I think you could do something, I think that's pretty drastic, but I think you could do something like that and scale it up over the course of, just a few short years. And so if that's something that you're interested in, I'd love to hear if you try that out. Because again, you don't have to have a physical office or location with this. Instead, you could start this up in a way that is fairly straightforward and simple, and just a little sweat equity is all you need for this one. All right, number 6 is one that I've seen more and more people starting to do, and more people need this now. I know in my neighborhood this is pretty big, and more people are starting to do this. And it's trash can cleaning. So this is a really good 20-year-old, 16 to 20-year-old, or even in your 30s, I know people who are doing this now, where you can set up a trash can cleaning business. So back-to-back cleaning businesses here that can be profitable, especially in residential areas where they have homeowners associations. They got to make sure that their trash cans are presentable. There's a lot you can do here. So the way this works typically is there's 2 ways. You could do this on the cheap, where you walk around town with a pressure washer and you're pressure washing these cans and putting a cleaning solution in there so they smell good and making sure they are clear of grime and debris and all this other stuff. Or you can go the more expensive route, and there are trucks now that will come by, and they kind of look like garbage trucks, but they take the cans and then they flip them over and put them on the back of the truck, and they shoot really high velocity water in the can in addition to soaps and other stuff. And they actually can collect the water as well. And you can clean this up really, really quickly with a nice logo on the truck and all that kind of stuff. So there's 2 ways to do it. Most people use a truck or a trailer if they're professionals, and they charge something like a subscription fee. So it's $20, $30, $40 a month. And you can come by and clean these cans, once a month, twice a month, something like that, and have the ability for people to get their garbage cans clean. Now, this is something I don't think I'd ever pay for this, but so many people do that maybe I always look at it like this is just so incredibly fascinating to me that people will pay for this. I'd rather get a hose and some soap and stick it, and wash my trash can out. But people value convenience, and convenience is definitely a value of mine, but for some reason, this one just isn't crossing my brain the correct way, but I know people who do this. And so if you can get this set up, you can get a route optimized, you can get your schedule optimized, and you can get this subscription model going, it's going to be really, really beneficial for you. So I would have a subscription model that's way cheaper than a one-time cleaning. If somebody wants a one-time cleaning, I'm charging $50, $75. It's going to be higher. I'm charging more money. But if people subscribe, then they get, some of these competitive pricing strategies. So you can have this tiered pricing, some of these package deals, discounts and promotions. If they refer their neighbor, they get their first month free, all kinds of stuff that you could do there that can help you kind of market all this. And then what I would do is have either direct marketing campaigns. I would utilize local SEO. I would make sure that I had social media marketing for this. And I would even talk about referral programs and having those set up, and then just having loyalty programs. So let's say, for example, if you stick with us for the entire year, you do a 1-year subscription, your first month is free at the beginning of every single year. And that can help you kind of have the ability to do free discounts and upgrades, all that kind of stuff. And then eventually, I think this is one of those businesses that you can scale. So if you can get a really good brand going, this is, I think, the ultimate goal for this, is if you can get a really good brand going for this, you could start to have more trucks in the area and start to expand out your area. But you can also franchise out this model where you get the truck set up, you get all of the business model set up, and you can franchise these trucks out for whatever the truck costs, plus an additional fee that will help you really be able to franchise this model out in different areas. So if you can get this systems down, you can get this business down, I think it's a very, very cool business that you can utilize going forward. Now let's get to number 7. And number 7 is one that we've done a YouTube video on. If you want to check it out, we'll link it up in the show notes. But this is ice machines. Now this is a more passive investment. I would consider this closer to like a real estate play, like many little real estate investments than I would just any old small business. But ice machines are a pretty interesting business. The way that you do this is typically you want to set this up in more blue collar areas. And there's a bunch of different reasons for that. But you can also set these up near boat ramps. You could set them up near beaches if you can get that location. That's a prime location. But near beaches, boat ramps, parks, all that kind of stuff is a great place for an ice machine. But also in blue-collar areas, because blue-collar workers typically have to fill up coolers, things like that before they go to work every day. And so ice machines, you can look at like Cooler or Everest Ice. They have these machines that you can set up where you can set them up for anywhere from $20,000 all the way up to $100,000 and get these set up in like grocery store parking lots, or all over the place where you can get these set up and have them ready. So you want these in high traffic areas. You want to have in the right demographic. You can make anywhere from $30,000 all the way up to, I've heard of people making $75,000 per ice machine, depending on if you put it in the right spot. So the key here, though, is negotiating long-term agreements in your location. So if you get a prime location in a grocery store parking lot, then you want to make sure that you are negotiating with that grocery store to get those long-term lease agreements with the landlord of that area. And then what you want to do is start to talk to all the different machine companies and see which one's going to fit your criteria the best. Because what's going to happen here is people, and you know how these work if you haven't seen them before, someone gets you get a bag of ice, and so either you can set it up where you give them the bag, they put their bag under the machine, and then it dispenses ice for them, essentially. And so the way that this works is that, once they do that, they pay for the ice comes through. So basically, you're just charging them for frozen water is essentially what it is. And so I think that is something that I think is very, very cool. A lot of these different companies offer financing. If you can find the right location, they will help you find locations. They will help you through this entire process, with your business model, all that kind of stuff. And they'll help service your machines monthly, so you don't have to go out there and service all the time if you don't know how to work the machine. Instead, I would just have them service it every single month so that you don't have to worry about the regular maintenance and routine. So I think this is a cool business. I think for a lot of people, I've also seen these for sale on Marketplace. Or different areas where you biz, buy, sell, where you can buy a fleet of these ice machines from all over the area. Someone's trying to retire. They don't want to work these machines anymore, and they are selling these machines. So a lot of really cool options here, I think, that you can do, but managing that growth, looking through how you can actually implement this and grow this is going to be a really cool process. So if you guys have any questions, those are the 7 side hustles that can turn into a full-time business. Please let me know. We have more of these coming, so get ready for that. If you enjoy these episodes, please let me know. If there's a specific side hustle episode that you want, where you want only ones that you can work from home, or if you want side hustles only that you can do from, outside. I don't know what you want. Or if there's ones like side hustles that you want to do outside, just let me know and we can look through that as well. So I really appreciate you guys listening to this episode. And again, if you guys have any questions, please reach out to us. Our entire goal is to bring you as much value as we possibly can. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you on the next episode.